welcome to the new edition of ABBA League magazine. The 11th round was really a round of turnarounds. The derby game was in Podgorica, where Budućnost hosted Cedevita, in which Yusuf Nurkic is a rising star. We will get to know him a bit better in our show. Solnok was trying to repeat the success over Partizan from last year, and Olimpia was doing its best to finally win in front of its own crowd for the first time this year. And of course, in the end, the best 5 actions of the round. News first, Cedevita's Nolan Smith is about to acquire Croatian citizenship as he's trying to get into the Croatian national team. That was real bad luck for Zadar's captain Ive Ivano. He was on his way to the hospital to remove a cast from his arm, but ended up on the operating table with appendix problems. Vasilije Micic and Dario Šarić are on FIBA's shortlist to become the best young player of 2013. They both participated in this year's Eurobasket in Slovenia. In light of the injury to Leo Westermann, Partizan decided to strengthen up with 2 players. Milenko Tepic will return to the club after 4 years abroad, and the 19-year-old Jovan Novak, the actual MVP of the Serbian league, will also put on the black and white jersey. Krka decided to bring a new player in after the injury to their first-choice playmaker Malcolm Armstead. It's none other than Sani Bečirović, who actually played for Krka in the 2003 and 2004 season. He might leave the club in case of a better offer. 1,500 people turned up in the Petsara Hall to see Široki take on MZT Skopje, who arrived with its new coach Zoran Martic. Nikola Otašević opened the scoring for the visitors, and it was Robert Rikić for the team from Herzegovina. Damian Stojanovski scored the first 3-pointer for MZT, which put them 7-3 in front, and the result of the first quarter of 17-14 was set by Aleksandar Kostoski. Martic's boys opened the second period brilliantly, especially Uroš Lučić, who was scoring, passing and blocking well. And when Sinovec's 3-pointer rounded up a 16-0 run for them, they were 17 points to the good. It took almost 5 minutes for the home team to score in the second period, courtesy of Robert Rikić from the free throw line. The gap grew to 21 when Kostoski was successful, but at least Bilinovac managed to close it slightly with a 3 just before the teams went on break, 39-21 after the first 20 minutes of play. The first 5 points of the second half were scored by the home team, and the gap was close to 13 points when Domagoj Bošnjak scored for 3, and then to 9 when Opačak was successful. MZT was only leading by 6 points after 30 minutes of play, Tomislav Petrović putting it to 46-40. When Toni Katic scored his only points of the game, Široki was trailing by just 4 points. And then only for 2 after Karlo Vragović scored for 3. But then the visitors were able to score some by themselves, Goran Markovski putting it back to 5. That was only temporarily though, as Ivan Bua was able to equal the score at the beginning of the last minute. Still, MZT was able to hang on as Jonathan Jones missed his shot for the win, and the game went to overtime. MZT was only able to score 15 points in the second half. In overtime, Robert Rikić secured the first lead of the game for Široki, but MZT managed to get back into the lead through Uroš Lučić. Then the next 7 points were scored by the home team as they took the lead of 64-60. There was some hope left for the visitors when Kay Davies scored for 3 9 seconds before time, but then Buva was successful from the free throw line to set the final result of the game of 67-63. Budućnost hosted Cedevita in the Montenegro capital, as it was without the injured Aleksandar Čapin. In the visitors' rank, Ante Delaš was missing through injury. Aleksa Popović opened the scorings, and then the next 6 points were scored by Ivan Ramljak to put the guests 6-2 in front. For the most part in the first quarter, Cedevita was 4 points in front, and that was also their margin come the end of the period when Ramljak made it 19-15 with a 3. The home team was very inefficient at shooting for 3, and Repesha was quick to order zonal defense, which bore fruit almost immediately, and Cedevita was slowly drifting away. Luka Babic dunked to make it 25-17, and then Yusuf Nurkic rounded up a 12-2 run to put the visitors 10 points ahead for the first time in the game. Budućnost then answered with 7 consecutive points as it was finally successful from the 3-point line, Aleksa Popovic making it in the 14th attempt. He was the game's best scorer in the end with 21 points. Still, Cedevita was 5 to the good at the end of the first half, which ended with 33-28. The visitors continued with their zonal defense through the majority of the third quarter, but this time Budućnost was able to put a couple of them in. This was the 4th by Suat Cehovic as the home team took the lead by 41-39. Nothing went in the attack for Cedevita anymore as the home team was able to put together a 13-2 partial when Mihailovic was successful for 3. The lead was 47-42 after 3 quarters. Nolan Smith was the only one in Cedevita's ranks to score more than 10 points. He was the one keeping the visitors in sight. Budućnost wasn't much more effective either, but it was given many chances by the leaky Cedevita defense, mostly penetrated by Vladimir Mihailovic. Tomislav Zubčić then managed to close the gap to just a point when he made it 57-56, but then Budućnost scored the next 5 points, and when Jalila Kindele scored 39 seconds from time, the game was effectively over. 64-60 in the end. Budućnost needed 34 attempts to make 7 3-pointers, but had as much as 13 offensive rebounds, with Cedevita also having 17 turnovers, which was 9 more than the hosts. And now, let's get to know Yusuf Nurkic a little better. He has been one of the outstanding players so far this season. Yusuf Nurkic is well used to obstacles in his young life and career, but he was able to jump over all of them with hard work. He is this year's surprise package of the league. For Cedevita, he plays 15 minutes on average and reaches 12 points and 5 rebounds in that time. He seems to be quite reliable for his coach.
Volja drugih je da ti ne gre, ampak ti tvoje to sovražje,
It's for the others to wish that you're not doing well.
Da grem, ni nazaj, ne greš nazaj nikamor, ker veš, da nazaj ni nikjer,
Slovenia and Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Lahko pač greš delati kot ostali ljudje,
če si tle,
hočeš nekaj narediti, pa veš, da ni drugi in greš kroz steno, če greš super, če ne, pa veš, da si naredil vse, da greš čez steno. Jaz upam, da mi je ratalo vsaj malo čez njo, tako da še dolg je pot.
Nurkic moved to Lashko at a young age as Zlatorog was seen as a good place for young Bosnian basketball players. Later he moved to Cedevita, was then loaned to Zadar, but this year he's managing to make an impact in the Cedevita jersey.
Nikoli nisem sebe dal preplen, ker
I was never too keen to put myself in front. It was always better if the team was winning. It means nothing if I shoot and rebound well if the team is not successful. If we can win a trophy and we celebrate as a team, that's when I'm at my happiest. Best thing in basketball is when you manage to play well and your team is doing well as well. At the moment, that is what's happening. Many experts believe that it's only a matter of time when Yusuf leaves for the United States to play in the NBA. When you play under a coach like Repesha, there is a new challenge for you every day. That way you can stay focused for every next game. True, NBA is the best thing, but if I don't make it, I won't be particularly disappointed, as I will know I have done everything in my power. But if the opportunity arises, I won't hesitate to take it. In spite of the fact he's a renowned face in Zagreb, he has fond memories from playing in Dalmatia, where sport is a religion.
Prideš v Zadar, kamorkoli prideš.
In Zadar and its surroundings, everybody loves for basketball. Everybody knows who you are. Young people want to take pictures with you, which is nice. They are very unlucky. Their club is in a tough financial situation. There you can only play for them, as there is no money. I wasn't playing for money in Zadar, I was trying to get as many minutes on the court as possible. And I think I did well.
Da igraš za te ljudje, nič drugega, ker denarja tam ni. Jaz nisem prišel po denar v Zadar, ampak igrati. Tako da sem dal priložnost, ko sem kakor toliko izkoristil.
The 19-year-old had no role models, but he does admire a player who plays in a different position to his own.
Prvega igralca, ko sem videl na TV, je bil Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant was the first player I was able to watch on TV. I think he's the best basketball player. It is really a joy watching him play.
Njega gledati prav uživanci.
He is in the meantime fully accustomed to life in Zagreb. Since he has acquired a driver's license approximately 6 months ago, he doesn't take trams anymore. He also likes to be around friends. In my spare time, we drive around with friends or play video games just like the normal people. We live for basketball almost every minute of our lives, so it's important we use our spare time well.
Druženja, v prostem času ti je fali toliko, da si fokusiran na košarko vsak dan, vsako uro, vsako minuto, ko gledaš, tako da gledaš najbolj druženje ti fali in greš s prijatelji okoli.
Yusuf Nurkic is proof that you can achieve many things through hard work. We'll see how his career goes and where are his limits. With his attitude, maybe there are no real boundaries at all. The defending champions stopped by in Szolnok in search for their 9th win of the season, but was wary of the task ahead as they had tasted defeat here last season. Both teams were burdened with injury to some of their influential players. After Nikola Milutinov for Partizan and David Vojvoda for Szolnok exchanged the first shots, it was Partizan who started much better and was able to pull apart to 21-10 by the time Milosavljevic scored 2 out of his 12 altogether. Akos Killer then dunked nicely to make it 21-12. But Bogdan Bogdanovic was playing really well again and was able to reach 9 points in the first period alone. With a 3, he put Partizan 15 points ahead. It was 27-14 after the first quarter. By the time Bogdanovic scored his 11th point, Partizan was in front by 17. Then a nice alley-oop by Justin Holiday to make it 40-26, and Szolnok was 14 points behind also at the end of the first half. 5 3-pointers by Partizan in that period and 11 turnovers by Szolnok. In the first half of the third period, Partizan was still able to keep a distance, 13 points to the good when Terence Kinsey scored. But then a run of 7 consecutive points by the home team, who was only 6 points behind when Akos Killer scored. Willie Warren was able to contribute 7 out of 20 Szolnok's points in this period. He closed the gap to just 3 points. The hunt went on in the last period, and 4 minutes before time, Szolnok reached their first lead through Peter Laurent and his 6 points in a row. The home team was then able to keep this small gap as Partizan's players were missing their free throws, 12 of them altogether. Willie Warren then scored an all-important three-pointer just 39 seconds before time to make it 70-66. George Gagic was able to reduce the gap to 3 points, but Warren was successful behind the free throw line and the turnaround was complete. A second win in a row over Partizan for Szolnok, 4th this season overall. Confusing situation in Zagreb as Cibona faces big financial trouble on one hand and was in the middle of a winning run under Slaven Rimac for the last 4 games. But it was the guests who ran away with an 8-0 run. Duško Bunic contributing most of the points. He managed 19 in the end, as well as 10 rebounds. Jarrell Blessingame was the first one to score for the home team, but he was nowhere near the performance against MZT last week, as this was his only basket of the game. Nemanja Gordic was again playing well. He finished with 18 points and 6 assists and put Igokea to a 16-6 lead. Cibona opened the second period well with an 11-3 run, with Dario Šarić contributing 9 of them to put Cibona just a point behind. But then Igokea was able to reply with a 10-2 run in which Teddy Gibson was responsible for 8 of them, and Igokea was 38-29 in front. That grew to 14 points when Uroš Mirković scored twice in a row. Matt Janning scored the last points of the half, which finished with 44-32. In the third quarter, Davor Kus was able to score 8 consecutive points to put Cibona 8 points behind, but Nemanja Gordić was then twice successful to again put the visitors 13 points ahead. The last 5 Cibona's points were scored by Matt Janning, thus setting the result after 3 quarters of play. It was 64-55. The first 6 points of the last period was scored by Dario Šarić, the game's MVP, with 22 points, 11 rebounds and 6 assists. And Cibona was trailing by just 5, and then only 3 when Darko Planic scored 2 out of his 6 altogether. But just when they managed to catch the visitors, Cibona started with a series of mistakes, which allowed Igokea to put together an 8-1 run, and again 10-point lead for the visitors. That was around 5 minutes before the end. When Duško Bunić scored to put Igokea 14 points in front, it marked a run of 14-3 for the visitors less than 2.5 minutes before time, and the game was all but over. 82-74 in the end, as Slaven Rimac lost his first game at Cibona's helm. After their resounding win over Valencia in the Eurocup, Olimpia played their only 4th home game in the ABA League as it played host to Mega Vizura. Nebojša Joksimović was the first one to score for Olimpia, and for the visitors it was their prodigy child Vasilije Micic. Olimpia was hitting well for 3, and when they scored their 3rd, the lead was 16-11, with Jaka Brodnik scoring for 3 for the first time this season. Alen Omic was also playing well. He put Olimpia 9 points in front. After that, Joksimovic's assist, 16 points for Omic altogether. Then Nikola Jokic was able to score 5 points in 2 successive attempts. It was a good time for him, as he managed to reach his personal best with 20 points in the end. At the end of the first quarter, the home team was leading by only 2. But that was quickly to change in the second period, as Olimpia was leading by 10 points by the time Joksimović scored his 3rd three-pointer, and then the home team was very rapidly 17 points to the good when Saso Salin again scored for 3, and with it marking a 17-2 run. Mega was only able to score 10 points in the second period with only 2 field goals, one of which provided by Nenad Miljenović to make it 45-32. It wasn't long, though, before the home team was again leading by the biggest margin that far, plus 19. Salin was on fire as he scored 3 more times for 3 in the third period, as the home team's lead grew to 21 points. Mega Vizura did manage to reduce the deficit slightly till the end of the period, which ended with 75-60 after Nemanja Radović had scored. That was after 3 quarters of play. But then Gailius was next in line for Olimpia to score from distance, and when he made from the 3-point line, the lead was 82-65 before Ratko Varda, a former Olimpia player, managed to score 2 out of his 14 altogether. When Alex Stevenson made it 20 points to the good for Olimpia just 3 minutes before time, it was of course enough for Olimpia to reach that elusive home win, a 3rd only overall this season. Still, good news for the team from Ljubljana, who was able to go ahead in the Eurocup, and now apparently is winning game also in the Adriatic League. Crvena Zvezda hosted Zadar in the Železnik Hall, as there were other activities in the Pionir. Before that, the red and white from Belgrade had lost all chances of a top 16 place in the EuroLeague, so all the focus has been shifted to the regional competition. The home team scored first through Blake Shielp, and for the visitors it was Marko Šutalo, eventually the game's best scorer with 20 points under his belt. When Shielp scored for the fourth time from 5 attempts, Zvezda was leading by 18-10. The lead grew to 11 points when Branko Lažić was successful. The result of the first quarter was set by Jaka Blažić. It was 23-12. Then plus 13 for the home team when Raško Katic scored, and then plus 14 when Charles Jenkins scored his first three-pointer. A bit later, Zvezda was already 16 points in front, but Zadar did manage to react and cut the deficit to 12 when Šutalo secured a first three-pointer for the guests. The gap was further reduced to 9 when Toni Prostran scored, and then to just 6 in the closing stages of the first half when Toni Dian made it 42-36. And with that, announcing a rather interesting second half. Ante Djugum opened the second half with 4 points in a row, and Zadar was only behind by 2 points. And then the visitors even went ahead when Šutalo scored for 3, which rounded up a 23-6 partial for the Dalmatians. Then a couple of changes in the lead for both teams. In that time, Simonovic was twice successful for 3, giving Zvezda a 57-54 lead. When Charles Jenkins stole the ball and dunked, he had rounded up an 8-0 run for the home team, and the lead after 3 quarters was 62-56. DeMarcus Nelson scored the first 5 points in the last period, and the red and white were again leading by more than 10 points. Zadar scored its first points in the last quarter after 2.5 minutes. Marko Ramljak with his only basket of the game with his strange three-pointer. But the home team was playing better, and when Boban Marjanovic was fouled after scoring, Zvezda was already 14 points to the good. That had grown to 17 when Marko Simonovic hit his third three-pointer from only 4 attempts, and that had effectively sealed the game as Zadar wasn't able to get much closer anymore. 82-69 in the end, a rather comfortable victory for Zvezda in a game in which it missed as many as 10 free throws. So Široki was able to spoil a good league debut for the new MZT coach Zoran Martic after that great turnaround. Budućnost, the winner of the derby game of the round, a first defeat for Slaven Rimac as Cibona's head coach, and a first home win of the season for Olimpija. No problems for Zvezda in the game against Zadar. Crvena Zvezda now stands alone on the summit with 9 wins, followed by Cedevita and Partizan with 8 wins. Quite a few teams with 4 wins, Olimpija and Široki still at the bottom, with both recording important wins in the quest of breaking away from the foot of the table. Sava Lesic is our MVP of the round. He managed a quite remarkable index of 41. He played all 40 minutes against Krka and reached 29 points, as well as 11 rebounds, 2 assists and 2 steals. So now let's take a look at the best 5 actions of the round. We start at number 5. When a point guard does block a shot as well as this one, it deserves a place. In the best 5 action, it was Nebojša Joksimovic. Number 4. It is this dunk by Akos Keller from Solnok. Number 3. Charles Jenkins, first a stolen ball and then a dunk. Number 2, David Vojvoda from Solnok. It's quite a funny basket with in the middle of falling on the ground. And number 1, it is this alley-oop by Solnok, closed by Justin Holiday. We thought you should know there are nice prizes to be won at the official ABBA League page on Facebook. The action is called Support Your Team. You can upload your fan photo and share it with your friends so they can vote for it by liking it. The most original ones will be selected and prized by Adidas and ABBA League as well. So the 12th round opens on Saturday at 5 p.m. with a duel between Igokea and Cedevita. Later on, there's a Slovenian derby in Novo Mesto. The derby match of the round takes place in Belgrade, where Partizan meets Budućnost. And that will be all for today. Thank you for watching. Till the next time, bye-bye.